So you were talking to me that about how at your workplace, certain kind of sad events have happened to people, and that has made you sort of think about death recently. Although I guess you've told me that you think about it at some point almost every day.
Yeah,
And I've told you the same for me recently for the past maybe several months. But yeah, do you want to tell us what what we were just talking about?
yeah, just in my work and also my personal life. Just recently, I feel there's just been a lot of death in the air and just brushes with death too, and the possibility of some people maybe not being around more in the future. So, um, yeah, looking these past few weeks, even more than before, I'm just kind of thinking about how different people are dealing with it and just kind of like what the healthy mindset should be, things like that.
When I asked you about what a healthy mindset could be, you said something about the keeping in mind that everything is impermanent, that everything changes.
Yeah, yeah. So things like we've discussed a lot about, and uh, that I first remember kind of reading and learning about more when you lent me that book a very long time ago.
Is that the Thich Nhat Hanh
When you had
book,
just been,
The Zen
I believe
Keys?
so. I believe so, and like you introduced that impermanence idea to me. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking on that a little
How
bit.
do you think that affected you just hearing that idea,
Um, well, it scared me. Well, maybe
particularly
not
with your
scared.
family?
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe in regards more. That idea scares me with my family because I think with the last podcast I told you how I'm very attached to the people I love. Um, and I don't know if it's necessarily more so than a lot of people, but uh, yeah, I just feel I am very attached. So uh, yeah, um, it kind of scared me a little more and accepting the impermanence of our relationships.
Yeah. But you think if you have a healthy attitude, it's important to accept that fully.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like if we don't accept that fully, then maybe I'm not accepting death fully either. So in a way, uh, because I
Yeah.
think all those things eventually lead to your own death or a part of you reaching that point in your life. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I think certainly, yeah, full acceptance of it is important for health. I mean, because it is a truth. And if you don't accept
mm,
truths, it's kind of like, I
mm,
think you will be sort of, there will be a psychological effect of
mm,
sort of you're living a fantasy, you're living
mm,
a pretend world, which
mm,
I think does not lead to as great satisfaction with life, and
mm,
later on probably worse decisions and thinking. But you do have to,
mhm,
the reason you would choose to live that way is because you're avoiding the pain that I think one has to face, the fear and everything, to face it now
mhm,
without becoming more morbid or macabre or yeah. Yeah, there seems to be some paradox that you uh, that you want to embrace, and so you can find a balance. You can walk a line
mm,
to where, yeah. where the presence of death helps you to be more alive.
Mm-hmm.
So, mundane things like being more appreciative or kind
Mm-hmm.
to loved ones and other people around you, uh, and more profound ways too, of sort of
Mm-hmm.
maybe just, yeah, feeling more alive with less stimulation and less distraction and things.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, that seems wise if you can kind of feel alive and be satisfied and therefore happy with just life as it necessarily is,
Mm-hmm.
however boring, mundane, painful, etc. that might be for you, whoever you are given your circumstances, and whoever you will be later on.
Mm-hmm.
But you told me about this a long time ago about, yeah, the difficulty with, yeah, and I felt an emotional reaction from you when I think we talked about it in a group or like before we were going to have the group about that. Have you felt any change in this sort of thinking with, living with this idea in regards to that?
Um, Not so sure. Well, I think at least now that idea isn't as intense of a panic when I think about it, but it's still a troubling feeling. So I think I still need to work on that. But I'm maybe not too sure of how to do that still yet.
Well, have you had like a dialogue with yourself to think about this, like how to approach it, or just admitting the fears or something like that, putting them into words or labeling them in your mind?
Um, well, I kind of think to myself that this is an experience everyone has has will face eventually,
Hmm.
because everyone loses loved ones.
Yeah.
So
So you don't
I'm
have to
kind of
feel
thinking
alone.
that, yeah, it's not a unique experience by any means, and millions of people will go through that uh, inner journey, I guess,
Hmm.
with accepting that fact.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, most likely someone around me has already
Hmm.
gone through that. So that kind of helps me feel a little better.
Hmm.
Um,
You think it's because you felt less alone?
yeah, less alone, and um, it's just a reminder that it's just natural part of life too.
Mhm.
So um, yeah, that helps. Um, and then in my work life, just the thoughts I'm kind of having about the people that have passed in that space is kind of helping me, I think, maybe prepare a little for when it happens in my personal life.
Mhm.
Because I've had thoughts of, I actually feel some relief or happiness that uh, this person isn't suffering anymore. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not as crushed as I maybe thought I would be.
Mm.
So, but of course, this is with the work life. So when it's more personal kind of death, like it will be much more intense. But
Yeah.
I think it just this little bit of exposure is kind of maybe priming me a little or
Hmm.
preparing me for that in the future.
Hmm. Do your ideas about what happens after death or what is it to God or things like that, do those affect how you feel about this?
Mm, maybe it's a kind of in the background, but it's not as prominent, I think, as maybe it would have been years ago. Um, I yeah, I'm not so sure. Mhm.
What
Yeah, like
about? Oh yeah, go ahead.
mhm. Yeah, like I still maybe have thoughts and ideas of there being some sort of afterlife, but I'm not so preoccupied with what may be happening or to that person or to people. So I just kind of have the thought that uh maybe I'm more accepting of just we don't really know and that person has found out somehow already and I'll find out too later.
Yeah,
Uh, so yeah, I'm not maybe I'm not as anxious about that like I used to be when I was younger.
that seems like a growth.
Yeah.
There is a mystery that we cannot know. And it seems like it's a growth to be able to go from a state of anxiety, wondering about that which you cannot
Mhm.
know anyway,
Mhm.
to acceptance that it is a mystery.
Mhm. Yeah, so like I feel I'm not really too tied down to one belief or religion really. And yeah, so that preoccupied me a lot more in the past and I feel like you said I have grown a bit in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm influenced by Rousseau, of course, but yeah,
Mhm.
to think that death is part of the natural order,
Mhm.
everything lives, everything dies, and many people and animals have shown they know how to die, and it sort of just happens, and
Mhm.
it's just another step after the step before that and before that and before that,
Mhm.
or it's another stage
Mhm.
after a few other stages or several other stages
Mhm.
that have happened in life.
Mhm.
Gives me some sort of, I don't know if it's comfort, but yeah, it's not really, yeah, it's not so much chaos. It's more a part of the natural
Mhm.
order.
Mhm. Yeah, like I wouldn't really describe myself as atheist or agnostic really, but I just have this general belief of like some spirit world, whether that's heaven, purgatory, or something else. And
Bigfoot.
yeah, yeah, or aliens or something. So yeah, if I'm not wrong, I'll find out eventually. Yeah, like though, like I have tried to, now that you taught me a little bit about that, I've tried introducing the idea to different people, but it's been very mixed results,
The idea of what
unfortunately.
specifically to what different people?
Impermanence,
Uh,
impermanence, and the inevitability of death. So,
you mean in your
uh,
group?
yeah, in my groups that I lead, so it's kind of disappointing, but um, I'm at least glad I'm kind of putting it out there in their minds for however long they may
Yeah,
retain that or maybe want to even think about it.
yeah, yeah. It's there maybe to consider. Yeah, it's impossible to delineate how people learn and how therefore people change in a certain direction. So yeah, it seems important to try to engage or try to introduce or expose, but including ourselves. But
Mm,
yeah, after that, you know, if you show someone the door or uh, show them the water, I mean, it's up to them to open it or to drink it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder with impermanence. I mean, it's a very obvious idea, right? I mean, everything, as far as we know, does change. For me, this idea sort of came in the form when I was younger of just history, like you kind of look at history and you want to find, okay, where's the country that lasted forever? Oh, none. Like all the countries and empires and peoples change. Or you want to find where is the period of history where there's no war, you know, never, etc. You're looking for like, I think I was looking for probably not suffering, and I was looking for not change in that it there was less suffering and more prosperity and all that stuff. But yeah, didn't happen. Well, what about in an individual life? I mean, life by definition is about change. You start off as a gamete and then you grow and you change. You're constantly learning. I mean, the speed at which uh babies in utero and then later on babies and kids are changing is just hard to believe, like even physically, and what how much they're learning. Sometimes they're learning like, I forget the number, like 10 words a day or 100 words a day or something. I mean, it's insane how much they're learning. And I believe that's one of the theories as to why we don't have really any memories from before age 3 is because the thing that would hold the memories, you, is changing so much. It's my understanding of that theory is that there is no you to 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 hold the memory because the thing, you are always changing. But anyway, yeah, that's all to say, just everything in human life and other life is always changing. So the idea of impermanence seems obvious, but as ideas go, yeah, it's not necessarily one that we want to accept. We may be more, maybe like how I was looking at history, want to believe things will get better and then they'll stay the same. So I want things to change when things are bad, but when things are better, I don't want them to change back to bad. And yeah, I think a lot of philosophers point out that a lot of the suffering that humans undergo is just because of themselves. The ideas that they have, the expectations they have, the unrealistic hopes, the rejection of the difficulties of life, or the wanting uh, to satiate ourselves, or to uh, go with our desires. So much of the suffering that we undergo is caused by ourselves. So I guess I'm just trying to walk around showing where I think, even though the idea of impermanence is kind of obvious, and once you know it, you can see that uh, that it helps you, can help you deeply. And we haven't talked about this much, but appreciate life, I think, and remind yourself to appreciate life right now and your loved ones and everything. There's a lot of reason that we wouldn't happen upon that idea. But I think in the West, especially more recently, yeah, we tend to have a very positive kind of psychology. And
Mhm.
I mean, in some ways, that's good. I think positivity is good for productivity. And I don't just mean in like with work or making things or something like that. I just mean with, yeah, with, producing even thoughts and things. But I think there's a lot to be said for, uh, yeah, emphasizing negative virtues. Like instead of being good, not being bad. Instead of being happy, not suffering.
Mhm.
It's maybe a lot easier and a better a better bet to subtract things from your life that lead to suffering than to try to add things to your life that supposedly make you happy, a lot of which I think are probably illusory. You're
Mhm.
probably looking to satisfy certain desires, especially some social desires like for status or even
Mhm.
domination, when
Mhm.
you're confused and thinking that you're going for happiness, when you're going for some type of pleasure that's not necessarily going to produce happiness for
Mhm.
yourself or for others.
Mhm. Yeah, that was pretty much one of the biggest criticisms I got when I got feedback on trying
It's
to,
negative.
yeah, it's causing them mental suffering, uh, and it's not pleasurable to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just didn't want to have to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's maybe something about how you view yourself and just what you're exposed to. If you're never really exposed to sort of those so-called negative things, then yeah, they may be, you don't
Mm.
know what to do when you are
Mm.
exposed to them. But you do not, but you can react to it and just say, I don't
Mm.
want this unpleasant feeling, and please stop saying these things that are giving me this unpleasant feeling.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I was thinking also the idea of impermanence, for you to come upon it, maybe you have to have some level of self-awareness where you have seen a lot of things come and go. Well, that's experience.
Mm.
But yeah, to have at least to have enough self-awareness to have reflected upon things and you have seen things come and go, and maybe you realize, yeah, you kind of come to the realization things do go,
Mm.
and to, yeah, maybe have the calmness of mind to be able to reflect on that. But anything more you think you could do with the dialogue with yourself about
Mm.
this fear to help, or is there nothing to be done now? Sometimes there's nothing to be done now, and one sits with it, and you know the unconscious deals with it, or you're waiting for some experience or to learn something first before you can advance a dialogue.
Um, yeah, I don't know necessarily. Like, I guess maybe I could just meditate or reflect on impermanence a bit more. But aside from that, I think I'll just have to wait for it. Like you said, it actually happened, and I'll have to figure things out from there. Um,
With unconscious or irrational things, I think, yeah, sometimes language is not the thing that you want to use
mm.
to sort of process it, but maybe more like art. And that's maybe one thing that we have a paucity of in our culture is, yeah, art. I mentioned that I think our culture is so biased towards the positive. Um, you think of, I think you told me about Bhutan, or no, 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 I read about it, or Yeah, I think I maybe heard it on a podcast, but Bhutan is a fairly poor but
Mm,
happy country. Maybe you told me about it too.
mm.
I think
Yeah, I don't
you were the one
recall
that told.
anymore.
Hmm?
Yeah, I don't recall anymore, but it's a very death worshiping culture, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if worshiping is the right word to
Mm,
use in this context. I mean, I know they do. Yeah, uh but but yeah, they have a lot of yeah, religious culture around that, right? Like I think you were the one that told me that they have uh or maybe no, I just read this anyway, it doesn't matter. They have sculptures all over the country made from uh like the ash of
mhm.
cremated dead.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's,
and like,
so all around you, all over the country, you are reminded of death. And they are supposedly very, very happy, even
mhm.
though they're also very poor.
Yeah, I recall like they like pray or meditate about on death like almost every day or
Yeah.
every moment
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I was thinking about that culture a little earlier. And I was just thinking about the Mexican culture too. Um, yeah, I remember just when I was little, my great grandmother died, and they just laid her body out on the floor, like on a little thin sheet, and we all just came to look at her.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's pretty traditional. I mean, now we still have a wake, but
yeah,
yeah, that's rather than yeah, sending it straight to the funeral home or something, it's good to be
yeah,
able to. There's also a practical reason that people noticed in the past that sometimes people seemed dead and they weren't dead, so you want to make
uh-huh,
sure. But it
mm,
seems like there's both
yeah,
spiritual and practical reasons behind that.
yeah. Like I think I was somewhere between like 4 to 6 years old when that happened, and I just remembered thinking she looked so peaceful.
Really?
So yeah, it wasn't scary at all for me, really.
It's good. Well, that seems part of yeah, good rearing is that you
Mm,
don't start off being scared of death or thinking it's something to be,
mm,
yeah, shocked by or something, but it's just
mhm.
natural and it is, and
Yeah,
it's inevitable.
yeah. But yeah, I think I remember it still to this day because it was a good experience actually.
Hmm. Well, anything more you want to say about this?
Not so far, but yeah, I'm sure it'll spark more thoughts and conversations in the future.
Okay. Okay. Well, until then, to life, huh? To
Mm.
life and death.